Welcome back to Bookenstein. I'm Ken Lammers, and this is my series where I review books and movies and etc. So today we're going to review Naomi Novik's A Deadly Education, book one of her Scholomance series, which I've seen claimed is going to be a trilogy. I've also seen something that indicates two books. Gotta say, when I picked this up at first, I went, oh, another magic school book. Well, let me see how it is, right? There's been a bunch of magic school books ever since J.K. Rowling ripped off Jill Murphy and, basically rewrote The Worst Witch with some different characters. Yes, I know after a couple, 3 books, it moved on, but boy, those first couple, 3 books, they're awful worst witchy. Anyway, so it's another magic school book, right? And I'm like, yeah, that's probably not going to be all that great. And then I read the thing, and I got to tell you, it's as close to a 5 out of 5 as I've read in a while. Most books I read, it's whether they keep my interest enough to get to the end. Some do, some don't. And at the end of it, I'm like, okay, book's over. Let's move on to something else. This one, when it got to the end, I was like, it's over? And to be fair, it ended where it should have, but still, I was like, I want more. And I had thought that more than one book of this series was already out when I bought the first one. Went to buy the second one and found out not until September. So, I'll wait till September to see what happens the senior year of, our heroine, Galadriel. Kid you not, she makes fun of it too in her book. Anyway, the whole basis of this school's different than what you've found elsewhere, right? Which should be indicated if you know anything what Scholomance means. That's indicative of it being not necessarily the greatest of places. Scholomance was the name of a mythological school in Romania, Transylvania, and that was supposed to be a school where 10 kids went in, and at the end, they learned all this magic and stuff, and at the end, one of them gets claimed by the devil, and the other 9 move on, and I guess become all sorts of powerful witches and warlocks and wizards and whatever, right? So that gives you an indication of where this is. And it's not exactly that story. Here's what's going on here. The magical world is filled with independent witches, warlocks, wizards, whatever, and it's also got enclaves. Now, enclaves are kind of a mix between rich wizards, rich magic users, and gated communities and mafia families, right? They're kind of there. And so these enclaves are tired of their kids dying. And the problem is that between the ages of 14 and 20, the magic ability of the kids grows significantly. Every 6 months, huge jump, right? And magical creatures, Maleficaria, things with the mals, try to eat the kids to get their magic. After they get to a certain age and they've got a certain amount of knowledge and practice in their craft, the mals ain't going to attack them because it's suicide. Under 14, generally, they don't have enough mana, you have to use mana, to make it worth attacking them, so they don't attack them there. Something had to be done because something like 50% of the kids in the enclave alone are getting killed, magically inclined kids. So they built this school. It's out in another dimension, and you get there by you just kind of get popped in, right? Magical teleportation, whatever, and you have a certain amount of weight you can carry with you, which apparently is fairly small, and then you have to go through 6 or 7 years of education. The school educates you by itself. There are no teachers, and it's supposed to be a great place for the enclavers to hide their kids so that they don't get massacred during these ages. Well, it goes wrong. And some of these mals figure out how to get into the school. And they get in and they start eating the rich kids. And they also at the end of at graduation, there's a place they call graduation hall, and graduation hall is, your senior dorm hall opens up. There's a hallway there. On the other side of it is the only connection to the real world. And to get there, you got to move from A to B, and a whole bunch of these Mals get in there. Malficaria get in there, and they're just waiting to jump all these seniors that are trying to get out. So seniors have to fight their way out, right? So there's, they're getting killed in the school by lesser Mals, and then when they go to get out, they have to go through that graduation hall, which is full of lesser Mals and greater Mals. And so this starts to get really expensive in terms of life for a lot of the Enclave kids. And their solution was, well, we'll open it up to the hoi polloi. We'll let all these other kids in, and then when there's like 80% casualty rate, or I think it's with 75% casualty rate, these other kids will soak up a lot of it, and the Enclave kids will not die nearly as much. And it works, right? And you're sitting there going, well, why would anybody agree to this? If you're not an Enclave kid, why are you going to go in there and take that shot? Take a chance of getting killed in there, and just so these Enclave kids have a better chance of surviving. They explain the reason for this. The reason is that if you're not an Enclave kid, in the world, as a Magic kid growing up, you got a 1 in 20 chance of making it to adulthood. If you're in the school, you got a 1 in 4. So your chances of living move way up, right? So they want to come in too, and they do. Once you're in the school, you go through several years, casualties here, casualties there, everywhere, and everything in the school. These little Mals get in everything and attack and kill kids all over the place. The kids have to be extra super paranoid all the time. You can't go to the shower alone. You can't go anywhere alone. That's just suicide. And you go to the shower, you got to watch, because tentacles will come up out of the drain and grab you and kill you, right? Grab you and poison you, kill you. Same thing when you go to get your food in a cafeteria. Same thing for everything. There's always some little thing trying to kill you. And you have to be, even in your room. And if you try to go in your room, at night you have to be alone, right? If you try to be in your room with 2 or 3 people, that draws more of the Mals, and you end up dead, all of you. So you end up in your room alone. The Mals can get into your room. You've got to deal with it, right? So that's the situation that we're in. That's the school we're in, right? And we're at what in the United States would be called your junior year of high school with our main character. Our main character is Galadriel. She's an independent. She's in here on her own. She's got to form some sort of alliance, so she's got a fighting chance of getting out at the end of her senior year. But this is basically her junior year, using American form identification of class years. I'm not sure what it would be for British or that sort of thing. She's half Welsh, half Indian. She really doesn't know anything about either culture, despite being raised apparently in Wales, because she's raised in a commune, right? Her mom raises her in a commune. And her family in India, she got introduced to them once, and Grandma says, immediately looks at her and goes, "You are the doom upon the world," and that sort of thing, right? And later on, the males in the family go to try to do something about that, which Mom objects to and gets her out of there. So she doesn't know the Indian part of her family. She doesn't really know anybody in Wales other than the people that live in her commune, and who aren't really fond of her. She by nature, puts off a bad vibe, right? And by nature, whenever she tries to reach out for magic, it tries to force her to take something evil. Same thing, the school, when it assigns projects, tries to force her to take something evil. So she gets several projects, and she ends up taking the least of them, the least evil of them. She has to keep this in mind all the time. There are two types of way you can use magic. There's you know, uh, maleficers, who are evil magicians, and they get eaten up from the inside and that if they use it. Use the evil magic, which basically is stealing other people's souls and that sort of thing. And there are regulars who use mana. Well, they're like, everybody uses a little malefice every once in a while, except she doesn't. She doesn't use any. She's all mana, all the time, no matter what, because she's just like, if I take a little, I'm just going to go way over the edge, not going to go any further. I'm not going to attempt that. So she's making her way through, and basically she's made it to her junior year by herself, right? There's nobody else out there who's really friendly with her. She's just been that girl this is extremely dangerous at this school, right? You can't be by yourself. Every once in a while, people will put up with her every so often and let her go to the shower with them or kind of walk between classes with them, but they're not like friendly with her. She just kind of walks along with the group. And this is how the book starts. We get introduced to one of the main secondary characters, Orion Lake. And Orion Lake is a kid in her class who has been running around and saving everybody in the school. He's a incredibly powerful combat mage, and he just has saved kid after kid after kid from mouths. And so we start off, he busts her door down coming after a soul stealer that has come into her room, and he just destroys it and leaves it in gunk all over her floor. And she is just furious, right? Absolutely furious at this guy. And he's used to like, oh, thank you so much. And she just lets him have it. And goes from there. He falls for her because she's the only person in the school that doesn't just worship the ground he walks on. She treats him like a normal person, which is to say she treats him poorly, because that's how she treats most people. But through this interaction with him, at first he starts following her because he thinks she might be an evil mage, witch, whatever, maleficer. And later on, he just follows her. He's just their friend, and because he's a bigwig at the school, he's supposed to be part of one of these enclaves. He sits with them, but he's not really doesn't do much with them. He's supposed to be part of this enclave from New York. He's a bigwig in the school, and she, of course, starts getting friendly overtures and or suspicious overtures of people who think that she's trying to use him, and mainly it's him hanging out with her, not her with him. But it does start to change her behavior, how she views people, how she deals with him, etc. It's growth, and it's actually kind of cleverly done through this other character. Now, everybody needs alliances when they go out their senior year, and it's still junior year, so she hasn't made anything yet, and she really wants to show how powerful she is and all this and that. But she hasn't had a chance, right? And she's trying to save up mana. She's got little crystals to save the mana in, so she's got a lot of mana when she's trying to get out the door. And she's just kind of hoping she can get alliance with somebody decent. It hadn't happened. Most of the time, it doesn't happen until your senior year. Well, we get our other two semi-main characters, secondary characters. There's one who is Yi Liu. No, I'm mispronouncing that. And she starts out as a maleficer, but things change. And there's another person with the name Adya. Sorry if I mispronounced that too. And these become, at first, kind of friendly. And then they start to cut into the fact that she's got power. And not a little bit, she's got a lot of power. And she's got pretty good control over it. And they decide to ally with her. So that's a big part of the story, building up characters and some part of subplots and plots and all that. What you find out, and this is emphasized, that the fact that Orion Lake has been killing off all the minor maleficia around means that the major ones down in the hall, which generally don't come up into the school, they just eat the minor ones when the minor ones wander by. The fact that he's been killing off all the minor ones means the major mouths down in the graduation hall ain't getting fed. Suddenly they start trying to come up into the school, right? This is a big problem because while the seniors may be in a place where they've learned enough that they can, potentially survive, they do the salmon thing, right? They all charge the door, and the hindmost, we know what happens to the hindmost, but they just end up getting, a whole bunch of them get picked off, and the ones that get through, right? Obviously, you form your alliances, the enclaves group in together, and they charge, right? And that's what you do. Well, the big ones are trying to get up. The big mouths are trying to get up into the school where there's going to be a bunch of younger students that aren't going to be able to defend themselves against these kind of things at all. These are kids that are having problems defending themselves against little mouths, right? So this is a big problem that they're trying to get into the school. And the senior class starts going buggy because the fact that there hasn't been as many deaths, they believe, means there's going to be more mouths down there for them to run their gauntlet. Not sure how that tracks. That did bug me a little bit. But the senior class is just absolutely certain that down there's going to be more. Now, I do think they're probably right. They're going to be more hungrier. There's going to be hungrier creatures on their graduation because they've been starved. And the senior class is there are members of the senior class that are talking about bursting the walls so that these creatures can get up, and the senior class will be the toughest things to eat, so they'll go eat the lower classes, and the senior class will be able to walk out, right? And this becomes a conflict at the end of the book, and how it's handled is really well done. And I think it demonstrates how powerful Galadriel is, right? So it's good. It's really good, and it reads out much better than when you flesh out what I just talked about, it gets a lot better. It's a really good book. I strongly recommend this. And from a lot of people I've read, they think this is her best book so far, although she does have a couple others that have rated really highly. And I've gone and bought Uprooted, and reading it so far seems to be a pretty good book. I don't know if I'm going to be hooked like I was for this one, but it seems pretty good. I recommend this to pretty much anybody who likes fantasy. It doesn't even really have to be if you're an urban fantasy fan, because the fact that they're stuck in this school means they ain't roaming around the streets with trolls under bridges and stuff like that. They're in the school. Most of the stuff is pretty close to something you could read from a fantasy book from, set in the 15th century or 14th or 12th, right? So I think you'll enjoy it just if you enjoy fantasy in general. And that's all I got to say for the moment. River behind me is trying to flood. We'll see if I get out of here tomorrow morning when I have to go to work. Anyway, if you like this, hit like, right? Go read the book, okay? Subscribe, hit the bell. Now you're not just going to get book reviews and reviews here. You're going to get book reviews and movie reviews, TV reviews. You're going to get cooking videos, and you're going to get probably some legal videos. Those are the three things you're going to see here. Choose to follow that which you love, and you can just let the others slide. And I hope that I see you again soon. And until next time, masalama, y'all. No, Mr. Bond. I expect you to die.